Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? Hopefully you can see and hear me okay. So sorry about the delay, technical issues as always. Uh, it's so strange, I don't touch anything and I come back the next stream and I got nothing. Anyhow, welcome to my photo shopping live stream where we go online and look for deals together. I try and cherry pick a few before the stream starts. And as always, I'll leave an open Q&A if you have any questions about gear, and if you're looking for something, I can maybe give you some guidance there. And my 10 or 12 years experience, such as it is. And I like I said, let's just get into some of the picks. I do have links down below to my favorite picks for today. But I always believe the core things every photographer enthusiast needs are, you need a bag to carry your stuff in, whether it's a backpack or a sling or shoulder bag, uh, and then filters, ND filters, and circular polarizers are must-haves, and then of course tripods. So I look for those things first uh, when I'm looking for deals, and then of course there's other things that are good to have along the way. Faster memory cards. Um, and just little things, diffusers, things like this that are very helpful. And then if there's any really big deals going on with cameras and lenses, I'll try and pick those out as well. And there's a few of those in there down there. So uh, we'll just start with the basics first, though, right? Cameras. I'm sorry. Filters, tripods, bags, right? So let me arrange my screens real quick, and then we'll get into it. And I see a lot of familiar names on the screen. Good to see you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming to visit me every week on my streams. And I'm sorry I didn't stream this past Sunday and Friday. Just I had a really packed schedule, and I just could not squeeze a stream in. But got a chance to get out and take some photos and go to a party. I'll tell you a funny story about that one too. Uh, okay, so I'm going to go to my deal page, and my deal page is just simply robtrek.com/deals, and that'll take you to my Amazon page. And of course, I am an affiliate for Amazon and B&H, KEH, a bunch of others. So I will earn a commission, on any purchase you make through, qualified sales. And it helps me out a lot. It's greatly appreciated. I really appreciate everyone that came in for the Prime Day deals. Hopefully, you got some good deals. I know I got a lot of good deals myself, including this new sweater vest. It's not camera related, but I got this new sweater vest and shirt. It's a really nice cotton Oxford shirt for like $7.50, and I got this. I think I paid like $17 for this vest. So, and I got this belt I'm wearing for $1. So I'm really happy with those. But I did get some camera gear as well, tripods and some accessories and things that I got, and I'll show you those if I haven't already. All right. So here are my deal page for Amazon Rob Trek's picks. Again, just robtrek.com/deals. And we'll start off with some filters, right? So Tiffin, this is their HT series, which is their professional enthusiast, high-end polarizer filter, and it's 55% off for $33. So that's typically more than I recommend spending on a circular polarizer. A lot of the polarizers I recommend come in kits, where you can get a whole kit with a polarizer, ND filter, UV filter, and a bag for about the same price. But if you really want to up your game and reduce lens flare, uh, the Tiffin filters are well known. They've been around a long time. They're pretty big in the movie industry, I believe, for filters for cinema cameras. It's kind of where they started. But, of course, naturally, they're going to make filters for camera lenses in various sizes. And right now, the 58 millimeter filter thread is on sale, and that's very common filter thread in micro four thirds. Uh, the 12 to 40 f4 Pro, the 40 to 150 kit lens, among many others like the 75 1.8. Polarizer is kind of a must-have at reducing glare, reflections, cutting through haze, improving contrast and color saturation. It just makes such a huge difference. It's very popular with landscape photography in particular, because a lot of times we go out early morning where there might be dew, or maybe it's just after rain and we got a nice hazy fog going on. All kinds of conditions that this will make a big difference in the quality of the image. Uh, Something that you really cannot reproduce in post processing. So I always recommend polarizers. A lot of photographers, the polarizer just lives on their lens. They never take it off because it kind of doubles as a protection filter, although it's probably not rated for any kind of impact. But for minor dust and sand and scratches and things, it's better to get it on your filter than on your lens front end lens element. So yeah, I have no problem recommending this even at the much higher price point than I normally recommend, because I do use I do have some very high quality filters like a B&H, not B&H, I'm sorry, B&W, and it very the biggest difference not so much in the fine detail, like if you're pixel peeping and looking at detail, or the quality of the polarization. That's pretty much going to be the same at any price point. The difference here is in the flaring performance, the glare, and this is where you spend a little more money to get that extra performance when you're dealing with direct sunlight, right? Or very strong points of lights coming directly into the lens in front of you. Because I have noticed that on the cheaper filters, I do get a little more flaring, uh, which I try to use the creative effect, but you can, if you don't want that, because it does reduce contrast ultimately, the higher end filters are the way to go. Okay, and then let's see, I have some more filters down here, I believe. Uh, Now this is in the 77 millimeter thread, but this is also a really good deal. Don't forget to click the coupons here as well when you add these, before you add these to your cart. But the main thing about this is a 77 millimeter filter thread, so this is going to be more for your DSLRs and full frame mirrorless cameras like Canon. 77 millimeters, 70, it's a very common filter thread size in the larger formats. Always double check your filter ring sizes. But the key thing here is that this is a true color variable ND filter, and this will do up to 6 stops, but very high quality, 50% off. Again, this is a little higher end lens than I normally recommend, for budget conscious shopping. But if you want to get the higher quality optics, this is an excellent price for an excellent filter. And then here's another one. This is a solid ND filter in a more common 58 millimeter filter thread size. And, generally speaking, I like to use solid ND filters in my photography. For videography, it makes more sense to get a variable ND filter. Uh, but for photography, usually I defer to solid ND filters. Solid ND filters have less are less prone to color shifts and things like that. Like we just talked about true color variable ND filters. There's a lot of variable ND filters out there that are not true color, and they're going to give a very yellowish tint to your images that you have to correct for either in the field, which can be difficult sometimes, or when you come back for post processing. Uh, so that's why when I recommend variable ND filters, I, I I strongly suggest you get the true color version. Now, for solid ND filters, you don't have to worry about that because you're not dealing with the optical uh, nuances that the way that variable ND filters work. Variable ND filters work by putting two polarizers together and then you're just adjusting it. And that causes shifts in the light rays that cause the shifts in the color. It's just a basic physics of light, and they offset that using coatings to offset the color. With solid ND filters, you don't have to worry about that at all. You don't have to worry about color shifts, and you don't have to worry about weird vignetting, particularly on wide angle lenses. So if you shoot a lot of wide angle landscapes, solid ND filters are generally a better way to go, so you can avoid weird uh, patterns, more common in wide angle lenses like 12 millimeters or wider on micro four thirds, 24 millimeters or wider on full frame and APS-C. So, uh, you know, and then, $12. Again, another high quality optic here, very good reviews, and a six stop ND filter basically is really good for two things. One, in broad daylight, you can probably get your exposure down to 10 or 15 seconds, but generally you only need 2 or 3 seconds. But you have the option to go a little bit faster, meaning you can open up your aperture to f2.8 or f2 with a six stop ND filter and still get several seconds of exposure time. So that gives you great flexibility in the field to adjust your aperture to its optimum performance that you're looking for. Uh, and also, uh, if you want to shallower depth of field in very bright conditions, you can open up your lens more with a six stop ND filter. But also, it's not as big a deal in photography to get that shallower depth of field by opening up your lens with an ND filter. It's more of a deal when you're using flash. So this is an excellent strength, six stops, if you're going to be using flash photography and you want to keep your lens wide open. Because with flash photography, a lot of times you like to just darken the background just a little bit, or you have limitations in terms of sync speed. You don't like to use high speed sync, or maybe you need to use a little bit of high speed sync. Six stops is just right for flash photography, portrait photography, in particular, a six stop ND filter. So this is a really good strength. If you're going to only have one solid ND filter, I always recommend 5 or 6 stops, right in this range. And again, this is a high quality filter with great reviews. All right, and then I think that's it on the filters. There wasn't a lot of deals. There were some killer deals, a couple of weeks ago. I hope some of you got. I know many of you got that deal where it was like you got it was a whole kit of filters, budget stuff, but a whole kit of magnetic filters for like $18 with a case. That was a killer deal. But this week, it seems like just the higher end filters are on sale. There are a few deals for the budget stuff, but they're not particularly good deals. It's like $5 off, $10 off. Not enough that I would get it now. Filters, you can generally wait. You don't need filters usually right away, right? So you can wait till a good deal. So if you've been waiting for a good deal on high-end, high-end mid-tier type filters, these are some really good ones. These are some really good ones. Okay. So let me stop and go to the chat. So I'm going to go through a group of items, come to the chat, answer any questions, and then come back to my deal page and talk about some other things that I found. All right. So good morning, Roger. Good morning, Marsha. Always good to see you. And Marco. Hey, Marco. Wow, you're actually on time today. You're always walking in late. That's why I say that. But you're welcome anytime. And okay, Randy and another Randy. And let's see. Thank you. And Eric is here. Hi, Eric. Haven't seen you in a long time. Yeah, missed me on Sunday. Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. I was so busy. I had ginkgo tree thing in the mornings, and I didn't get back home till 1:30, and then I had a party I had to get ready for to be at by 5 o'clock. And I'll talk about that maybe at the end. The Great Vanzini, good to see you. And Papa has looks like a question. It says, I'm digitizing slides and negatives from the 1980s using a Valoy EZ35 kit. Okay, I've heard of that. With the OMD and the Zuiko 30 macro lens. Is the M5 Mark II good enough, or would an OM1 provide significantly better quality? No, EM5 Mark II is good enough. It's fine. Just as always, set your ISO to base 200. Set your lens aperture to, typically 2 stops. I would maybe do a 5.6 on the aperture with that 30 macro, and then adjust, for composition, and try to fill the frame the best you can. Shoot raw, of course. Check your white balance, and you want to set your white balance to the light source of the Valoy, and I would double check it again after a couple of snaps, and after you invert your negatives and convert them, assuming that they're negatives and not positives, right? Because maybe you're doing slide, which are positives. But yeah, always do that, and yeah, and the usual other things, right? Make sure you're perfectly parallel with the plane of the negative, and that it's nice and flat and clean. Clean, duster, brush, whatever, no fingerprints, that kind of stuff. And you should get excellent results from an EM5 Mark II, excuse me, and that 30 macro. Perfect setup for that kind of work. Okay, and Randy says, like Rob said, Tiffin were always our first choice for filters when shooting movies, as they were so good optically. So yeah, Randy's was he's kind of a big deal back in the day, right? You still are in my book, right? But commercially speaking, he's worked on big budget films that you've probably heard of if you're our age, or you know, I'm at a loss for words, but yeah, I appreciate that. And Paul, good to see you. Robert, oh, good to see you, Robert. I guess you're back. I didn't respond to Michael's message in Instagram about the coffee, but I'll try and get back to him today and thank him for that. I really appreciate that. Robert goes to, I guess, the DR, Dominican Republic, to visit his brother. I don't know if that's where he went this time. I can't remember, but they always pick me up a bag of coffee, which is awesome, and I really enjoy it. As you can see, I always try to have coffee. I've been upping my coffee game from Maxwell House lately, trying different beans and things. But I still like Maxwell House. It's kind of my staple. I always call Maxwell House the raw. Like if I want to make a photography analogy, it's like the raw file format. That's Maxwell House. No frills. You just get good coffee. But then all the gourmet coffees are like your art filters, right? Or JPEGs with whatever. And then Gigi Wildlife, good to see you. And Randy, I really don't like how YouTube has kind of switched to showing the user ID versus like the name that you type in, because I have a hard time remembering people's names. But it used to show your names, but now it's showing like these IDs, so I'm so sorry if I can't remember your name. And then Roger, hello, what lens would you recommend for street photography and general shooting on the OM5 Mark II? 17 millimeter f1.8 from Olympus, the 15 millimeter f1.7 from Panasonic, both excellent lenses and work really well for photography on the EM5 Mark II. If you're going to do video work, I'd probably lean towards the 17 1.8 if you want to do some short clips of video, because that is more compatible than Panasonic lenses in terms of autofocusing. It's not that the autofocus is bad on Panasonic lenses, but I've noticed on some Panasonic lenses, the autofocus is a lot slower, whereas it's a lot snappier on the Olympus versions. And also, I know they have the quieter motors. You know, they are M&S rated, movie and still rated, so they have silent motors. But optically, the 15 millimeter is, I think, a more interesting lens, better contrast, better sharpness than the 17 from Olympus. And also, I prefer the slightly wider field of view that a 15 gives you. I love 28 millimeter equivalents, which would be 14 on Micro Four Thirds. 15 is the next closest thing with the best optics, but it's a little pricey. You're going to pay, you know, probably 30-40% more for the Leica 15 millimeter. But I think if you're going to do a lot of street photography, it's worth it to get the slightly wider field of view and also the better optics. Like I said, the only caveat is if you're going to do video, I don't know how that lens performs in video autofocus, but I know the 17 is very good. The other thing is, you know, if you're going to be stopping down f5.6, f8 all the time, it doesn't matter which lens you get in terms of optical performance. They're both going to be very sharp, very contrasty. But again, the 15 millimeter with the wider field of view, I think, is more suitable for street photography, particularly if you want to include more architecture in your street photography or more of the environment. These two things, the 15 is definitely has an advantage. And some other more budget options would be just your kit lens. You know, it goes out to 14 millimeters. Stop down to 5.6, you really can't tell much difference between that and these much more expensive lenses. So if you already have a kit lens, the 14 to 42, whether it's the easy version, the motorized one, or the manual zoom, you're going to be perfectly fine with those lenses. They're just they're a little bit softer in the corners than the prime lenses I mentioned, and they're not as fast. Obviously, they're 2-3 stops slower on the long end, but on the wide end, they're what is that? They're more than let's see, a stop and a third, plus another 2. Yeah, so they're about 2 stops slower, even on the wide end. So they're not going to be quite as good in low light type situations. So if you do a lot of night street photography, then you probably want to go back, get a prime, so you can use the lower ISOs and faster shutter speeds that a lot of times street photography requires. And the other thing I'd say is I'm trying to think. There's a couple of pancake lenses from Panasonic. I don't see a need to get a pancake lens like the 14 millimeters. There's a 14 f2.5, I think, from Panasonic, and a 17 f2.8 from Olympus, and a 20 millimeter f1.7 from Panasonic. Optically, the Panasonics are better, but the autofocus is very slow and not quite as it has a little more trouble locking, right? Once it locks, it's perfect, right? You get focus. But from what I've heard is that those lenses are slow to autofocus, and you get more, it struggles more to acquire the focus, but once it locks, it's fine. But that said, it's not terrible. You'll be fine. You know, you're gonna have not gonna have many problems with those lenses in general. But I think the slower autofocus would be an issue with street photography. So again, but they're a lot cheaper. They're about half the price of the other lenses that I talked about. And the 21.7 is very well regarded, but a lot of people like the 14 as well. The 17 doesn't quite get as much love. Robin Wong seems to like that lens a lot, but Mike, the general consensus is it's not as well loved as the Panasonic versions. So there's some pancake options, and then trying to think if there's anything else. There is if you like the longer focal lengths, 25 millimeters, which is a 50 millimeter equivalent, which is also a very popular focal length for street photography, where you want to isolate the subject a little more. If you're doing mostly people, right? Street portraits, the 25 is a better way to go. The 25 1.4 from Panasonic is excellent. You can get those used for about $200-300. The 25 Olympus 1.8, excellent lens. Probably should be your first choice over the 1.4 from Panasonic, but the 1.4 gives you a little more light and a little more character. It's a much more interesting lens optically, although not quite as optically sharp as the Olympus 25 1.8. So it just kind of depends on if you want to get a little more character and a little more light, the 25 1.4. If you want better sharpness and better autofocus, because the version 1 of the 25 1.4 is not quite as smooth, but not a problem. Like I said, I'm really splitting hairs here in terms of autofocus. I would consider them equivalent. I've used both. I have both. But I prefer the 25 1.4 for the character, but the 25 1.8 is really good. And then for whatever reason, the 25 1.7 from Panasonic is not, people say it has a back focusing problem at f4, particularly, and I'm getting this from Robin Wong again. He's one of my go-tos, actually, for a lot of stuff. Because he does a lot more lens, he does a lot more reviews with lenses and cameras than I do. But that are micro four thirds. I do a lot of the other lens formats, Sony, Fuji, Nikon, that stuff. But the 25 1.7, supposedly there's back focusing issues at f4. I've never personally experienced that problem, but I don't use the lens that much. I mostly use my 25 1.4. But the 25 1.7 is a great budget option, and it's a little slower than the Olympus. The Olympus being the fastest of the three 25s I mentioned. And then last but not least is the 20 millimeter f1.4 from Olympus. It's a pro lens, $600-700. It's not cheap, but that is very, very well regarded. Of course, pro lens. If you need weather sealing, that's going to be your only option. If you want weather sealing in your camera, the 20 millimeter 1.4 is the only. Well, the 25 1.4 version 2 is weather sealed from Panasonic, but it costs even more, I think, than the 20 millimeter 1.4 from Olympus. But the 40 millimeter is a kind of a nice compromise if you like the slightly wider than 50. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't have a mute button. My mute button is gone. That's one of the technical issues I haven't fixed before this stream started. What was I talking about? Oh, the 20 millimeter 1.4. That's the 40 millimeter equivalent. That is a very popular focal length lately. It's kind of the new 50 millimeter or nifty 50, because it is wider, but not so wide like a 35 or, let me speak in micro four thirds terms. It's not as wide as the 17 or the 15, but it's pretty close to the 17. But it's not as tight as the 50, right? Because sometimes you just want a little bit wider than the 25 millimeter. So the 20 is a great lens. I think that's very, very popular. So if you don't like the wide angle stuff like the 15 and the 17, Maybe the 25 is a little bit tight. You know, it's great for portrait, street portraiture, like if you're taking pictures of a lot of people. But sometimes you want a little bit of a blend, right? A little bit more of the environment. You can get in a little closer to the subject, or you can back up a little bit, get more of the environment. The 20 millimeter f1.4 is an excellent choice for that. So there's a lot of options depending on your style, right? So starting at the 14 millimeter with your kit lens, going to the 15 and 17, the 25s I mentioned, and then last is the 20 millimeter 1.4, which will give you weather sealing and sort of that in between just right size focal length. But the most expensive option, aside from the 25 1.4 version 2, if you want to buy brand new Panasonic 1.425, they're pretty pricey, but you can get used ones, like I said, $200-300. That's how I bought mine. I paid $225 for mine, and mine's a version 2. And I suggest you get the version 2. And they have another version after that, but pretty good range there. I think the sweet spot for me is the 25 1.4. So when I think about a 25 millimeter and general purpose photography, including street photography, the 25 1.4 is my go-to lens. If I need the low light capabilities or the shallower depth of field. My favorite lens right now is actually the 12 to 45 f4 Pro lens. That, I think, is my favorite lens right now. It's so versatile because of the zoom range. The f4 is fine because you don't need shallow depth of field or low light capability a lot of times in street photography, unless we're talking about at night. So if you don't like the kit lens, of course, is a kit lens. It's not going to be as good as the 12 to 45 f4. The 12 to 45 f4 would be a great upgrade to your kit lens and pretty much cover everything street photography, whether you want super wide or you want up close, more portraiture type photography. So that would be my last recommendation. That's not a prime, is the 12 to 45 f4 Pro. All right. And wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That is awesome. Oh, I got this stupid banner over my head. Let me get rid of that. Sorry. Although I do appreciate all the support you can get, either using my affiliate links or super thanks like that. That is super. That helps me out a lot. Okay. Howard says, lots of rain last week in the DR from tropical storm. Oh, that's right. We'll DM you to see when we can meet to give you the coffee. Awesome. Yeah, I'm a little busy today. If I can finish my video review today, maybe tomorrow. I mean, I'll be free tomorrow and Thursday, more or less. And Roger says, bless you. Thank you. Oh, that's from when I sneezed. Hey, Rob and fellow photographers, any recommendations for Fuji X mount compatible lenses to go with the XE5, trying to stay light, compact, and good bang for the buck? Absolutely. Any of the Viltrox Air series. So I'm going to give you a link real quick. Actually, I have a page for Fuji. Let me see if the lenses are there. So yeah, let me give you this link. So on that link I just provided, there's a bunch of lenses in here. This is a fun little lens, the 28 f4.5, and then all the Viltrox Airs here, the 15, the 35, the 20. These are all excellent lenses, excellent prices. And then down here, Yeah, the 75 is really good. This is a great lens, and I love this lens. I have it the Sony version, but this is a great lens. And then this is a manual focus, but it's super wide and it's cheap. The 56 1.7, excellent lens. The 23 1.4, excellent, excellent lens. So of all the lenses I mentioned here from Viltrox, uh, I would say if you're on a really tight budget, you want the smallest, lightest lens, these two are really good. The 20, the 35, the 15, or these three, I should say. So figure out the focal length that you want to get and go with one of these. Uh, Personally, I love this lens, the 23 1.4. So you have great low light capability. It's extremely sharp, corner to corner. I'm not having any issues with this lens. I may even have some examples on my Flickr page. Let me see. I should have an album. I'll put a link to this in the chat also. Yeah. I only have a handful full of photos here, but you can pixel peep these if you want. So this is my album. So if we look at this one here, I didn't focus on the ship, so there's a little bit of depth of field issue here. But this lens, I mean, my focus point was here. I kind of got my depth of field. What do they call it? You know, that point where you focus the hyperfocal distance wrong. Because I shot at f8, so I figured if I focused in right about here, everything will be in focus. And you know, if you don't pixel peep it, everything is in focus. But even if you pixel peep, it's still pretty sharp all the way to the back. But my focus point is down here in the water. Here's another good example at f8. I mean, you can just see the amazing detail you get out of this lens. Here's another great example. I mean, just look how sharp those bricks are. It's crazy. And these are pretty much the full frame. I didn't crop hardly at all on any of these. So you're seeing corner to corner how sharp this lens is. You know, even down in here. This is the extreme corner. This is also at f8. And then here's one at yeah, so I was shooting f8 that day. But this is my favorite lens. Now it's not as small and light as the Air series. Those are all plastic. Uh, Optically, they're perfect, right? But the build quality is plastic. The 23 is an all metal, really high quality metal. But here's the 23. You know, at Wilkes Tunnel, we've been there together many times. But this is at f4, so you know, again, hyperfocal distance is even more critical. I might have missed it. I think this focus distance is right here. It looks like. And this is very high ISO, 5000. So I probably should have stopped down to 1.4 and got a lower ISO and just dealt with the blurry background. But I was trying to get maximum depth of field without stopping down to f8. You know, anyway, the joy of photography, right? And trying to get your settings right. Okay, so you can check that out. That would be my number one recommendation, even though it's not heavy. It's not a big heavy lens for a 1.4, but these are the ultimate in lightweight. Okay, and yeah, the XE5. Did you buy an XE5? Anyway, the XE5 is Yeah, it's a rangefinder, kind of a small camera, so probably the Air series would be a better choice for that camera. But I wouldn't rule out the 23. It's a great lens. And Roger, okay, Roger, thanks for dropping in. And hopefully we'll see you again Friday or Sunday when I'm back. And the Great Vanzini, that's a properly shippy ship. Yeah. And are there rumors of an All-in-One Mark III coming out? I need a new camera and do not want to buy a Mark II if a Mark III is coming. I haven't heard anything. I go to the same sources everybody else does. It's 43 rumors, right? All my peers are. Yeah, I don't see anything. So I would I'd venture to guess. My guess would be what? The All-in-One Mark II came out last year early. Is that right? Let me check the date. Because the turnover cycle, I think it's going to be 3 to 4 years on that camera. I mean, I know from the Mark One to the Mark II was barely 2 years, if that. But that's kind of an exception to the rule because of the transition between OM Systems and Olympus, and also they didn't really do that much for the Mark II, right? They added a bigger buffer, slightly better autofocus performance, and a couple other little things. But I'm gonna give you my best guesstimate, my educated guess. So I'm just going to DP review. So the OM1 Mark II, January, yeah. So last year, uh, I seriously doubt a Mark III is coming around the corner. I would give it another year minimum. OM Systems just doesn't have, in my opinion, the bandwidth to release a significant update in a Mark III, because it would have to be a significant update. Because the Mark II, I would consider sort of an evolutionary update, just little things to keep the brand going. Uh, Certainly, if you didn't have a Mark One, or if you didn't have a Mark One, get the Mark II. But if you have a Mark One now, I think you're good until the Mark III comes out, whenever that is. If you don't have a Mark One or a Mark II now, uh, you can buy a Mark II now. I think you'll be fine. Or if you want to save some money, get the Mark One. But I'm not sure exactly what your application is. I would argue that the minor updates to the Mark II are, the significant thing for me for the Mark II is basically the deeper buffer, going up to 200 and some images. Maybe there's a slightly better autofocusing performance, but the Mark One performance for me has been very good. That I don't feel a need. I need better. So really, if you do a lot of sports action type wildlife photography, it's probably worth the extra money to get the Mark II, because of the deeper buffer and the slightly better autofocusing performance for that kind of thing. If if you don't need if you don't do a ton of birding and sports action photography where you're constantly buffering your images, the Mark One is more than good enough and more than capable. Just as capable and same image quality. Uh, Most of this, 99% of the same features. It lacks like the graduated MD. it lacks a few of the frills that you get with the Mark II, but overall, these are things that you probably only use once in a while. And if you do need them and don't have them, they're easy to duplicate using filters, right? So, uh, yeah, same stack sensor, continuous shooting's the same, same stabilization, same video, uh, slightly better autofocus, same EVF, same high-res shot, same live comp. This is new. Graduated ND filters. That's something that the Mark I does not have. And then the Mark I's also weather sealed. So yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to buy the Mark I, with the only caveat being is the Mark II has a much deeper buffer, more than double. You can just practically shoot, forever on that thing and not never hit the buffer. I'm exaggerating, of course, but it is a much better performing camera for sports action. But for me, the Mark I, the way I deal with the smaller buffer, the buffer is like 93 frames, and the Mark II, I think, is like 200 frames, whatever. It's more than double. The way I deal with it and the way I've always shot is in bursts, like where I'm only doing, you know, 20, 30 frames at a time as I'm shooting the bird. I don't just mash the shutter button, spray and pray. So the limited buffer on the OM1 Mark I is really not an issue for me, and getting a Mark II would not add much to what I'm already doing. Yeah, there's times when I missed a shot because my buffer got full. My halo shot is the kingfisher diving into the water to get a fish, and the beak just crossing into the water. You know, that's my halo shot that I want to get eventually. And I was tracking the kingfisher. I was, of course, I have to mash the shutter button, right? So I'm tracking, and then the buffer filled up right here. And then the next shot, he's like under the water. I'm like, oh, I was that close to getting him. If I had the Mark II, I would have got that shot. That's like a rare thing, and I don't shoot wildlife that often. I mean, regularly, but not every weekend, right? So, uh, again, the Mark II would not add much to my photography. So if you're in that situation, or if you feel like that's the kind of shooting you do, then Mark I is more than capable. Mark II, for if you're doing that kind of photography all the time, where you need that, where you're going to mash the shutter button down and you want that exact moment, that's what I would recommend. Waiting for the Mark III, uh, that's a tough call. I seriously doubt it's going to come out in the next 6 months. I would predict probably you'll hear an announcement maybe you'll hear an announcement in the next 6 months, but I don't think the camera's going to be available for at least a year, if not 2 years. That would be my best guess. Okay. You won't confirm or deny it. I'd love to see it though. I can go out with my Fuji X-H3, and I get Fuji lenses in all the time. I have another one coming actually, a 51.2, I believe. I think it's a manual focus. And I've turned down some Fuji lenses, but I get those in all the time. I can sell them to you cheap after I'm done reviewing them if you want them, Rob. Uh, the Mark II official release February. Okay, thanks. So, yeah, because there's an announcement. I think is what DP Review is showing, and then there's the actual release when it might be available for sale. So I need to buy an HDF filter for my Q3, though it seems my options are only Leica products. Ooh. Let me take a look. So I'm not. Okay, so I'm just trying to see exactly what an HDF filter is. It's basically a diffusion filter. All right, so I think from a I'm just looking at the examples. Honestly, I think all you need to do is get a black diffusion filter, because all I'm seeing the HDF filter do is soften up the highlights. Like in the Ricoh GR3, and then so an HDF filter is a soft filter that enables soft expression. It emphasizes the light. So basically, I think a black diffusion filter is all you need. Uh, because they got black diffusion filter, they got white mist diffusion, they got some other variations, but the black mist diffusion filter maintains the contrast of the image, but then softens the highlights, right? So I think that's the way to go. Is just find a good black diffusion filter that'll fit the front of your Q3. I don't know what the filter thread size on that lens is, but I think you can get that and pretty much the same thing. I don't see any visual difference. The white diffusion filter, you know, it the white mist or whatever they call it, that is going to make everything soft and reduce contrast. A black diffusion filter maintains the contrast but then diffuses the highlights. And I think that's what this HDF means, highlight diffusion filter. It's basically the same thing. Yeah, HDF just blooms the light. Yeah, so black diffusion filter, kind of the same thing. Uh, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. A black diffusion, get a quarter, 1/4 black diffusion filter, and I think you'll be okay. And they're cheap. I'll give you a couple options. Um, so I'm guessing you need a 49 millimeter thread. So let's see. The difference is so subtle, though. Walking Way makes really good ones that are pretty affordable, but if we're talking about a Leica Q3, here's a 2-pack for 31. This is their Nano X series. This is their, oh no, this is a K series. So you want to get the Nano X series if it's available. K series. Nano X. Here's one. And of course, Earth is very well respected, but so is the K&F Nano X series. Here's a two-piece kit Nano X for $69, because you can stack them, right? And then let's see, 1/8. This is a diffuser and an UV with a ring adapter. Oh, that's for the GR. Okay, so but here's an example, right? It says reduces highlights and lowers contrast, but the black diffusion filter is actually supposed to try to maintain the contrast the best it can. I don't believe there's such a thing as, let me give you this link. So of the ones I've pulled up, that would be the one I recommend. You can also get this two-piece kit, the 1/8 and the 1/4 combined. So it's a little cheaper to get two filters. You know, per filter, it's a little cheaper this way, but really you only need the 1/4. This would be the way I go. So I've used the black mist filter. I don't know if I can find a photo specifically where I used it, but I will demonstrate it for you. Let's see. It's not a filter I use very often, so I have to figure out where I put it. Those are that, it's not there, it's not here. It's definitely not that one. It's not this one. Could be in here. It's my star. Oh, there's my 8-star filter. Man, I've been looking for that thing. Here it is. Whoops. Okay. Believe it or not, this is actually organized over here. But I have a general idea which bag, which filter is in which bag. All right, so this is a 1/4 mist filter, okay? So I'm going to put it right up there. Okay, this is 1/4 mist filter. No filter. Filter. No filter. So that doesn't mean anything, right? Because I'm using a webcam. You're watching a live stream. It's going to be hard to see the difference like this. So let me get a point of light. But my point is, what you should be able to see, though, is that there's very, very little difference in contrast. See if I can put it halfway in. No, not really. Look at it. Get a feel for the contrast with the filter and then without, right? Now let me add a light source. God, every device I have has a different way to turn on. Sometimes it's push and hold, sometimes it's double tap, sometimes it's push and turn. Anyway, let's see. So this is without the filter. So I'm going to put the black mist in. See? Now, look at the contrast on my face compared to the diffusion on the filter. I'm getting some reflections though. That's the problem. Because this webcam has an LED light that shines onto the lens, which is a problem. Okay, this is not bad. So look at the contrast like on my hair. See if I can point this up a little bit. Okay, look at my hair with and without the filter. It's very, very subtle, but it's a huge difference on the light source, right? It's really diffused. And yet the focus and the contrast on everything else doesn't change much. And that's what a black mist filter is. And I suspect an HDF filter is exactly the same thing. They just call it HDF instead of black mist for whatever reason. Okay. So I hope that helps. But what I use the black mist filter for is in flash photography. Damn it, this is a double press. Hold on. Okay. Come on. There we go. I'm going to mimic a flash here, right? So I have this really strong flash firing for portrait photography, flash portrait photography, right? But what this does is it softens the highlights on your skin, on the on the model's skin. So let me put this somewhere that makes sense. See, without it, and then with it here. Let me see if I can demonstrate. The light's a little bit too strong. Hold on. Okay, that's a little better. So this is with the black diffusion filter. This is without. So look at the highlights here, and then on my nose, because those are very common places, right? The forehead and the tip of the nose are very common points. You know, the T-zone for oily spots on people, right? Okay, let me get this right. So this is with the diffusion filter. It's without, and then with. So hopefully you can see the diffusion it softens the highlights on the face. So when I'm taking pictures of models or clients, right, it saves me a lot of work in post-production of very fine wrinkles, and also softens the highlights, in that T-zone where people have really shiny parts on their faces. So it's really good for that too, for portrait photography. So when I do my portrait photography, a lot of times I'll use this when I'm using flash. Even without flash, this is really useful outdoors and stuff. Okay. All right. Let me scroll up here. It says, thanks a lot. I currently have the OM5, but I want subject detection BIF, probably with the Mark 1. Yeah. So yeah, from the OM5 to the OM1 Mark 1 is a huge improvement. And you can get the OM1 brand new for like 14 right now, I think 1400. And that the difference between an OM1 Mark One and a Mark II is like $600-700. At current pricing, you might be even get a better deal, but you can buy a great lens, for the gap. Uh, and then Marcus says, not deal related. And I know there are a couple of ways to accomplish it, but if you were shooting outside with a strobe with the OM1, how would you expose for the background? So generally, I like to have the background a little bit darker than the foreground, the subject, right? By usually one stop. About a one stop difference is visible to the eye in just about any photo. Two stops, the subject would pop out a little bit too much, unless you want to go for that look, creatively speaking. But generally speaking, a half a stop to a stop difference in brightness. So I'll give you an example. And I know we're like way past, talking about deals. It's fine. It's a live stream. We can do whatever we want, right? But if you're shopping for deals while my editor is loading up, uh, just check my link down below. I picked out a lot of things, and if you have any questions during the stream about anything in my deal page, or if you're looking for anything, just let me know now in the stream here. Okay, let me see. Where's my client folder? Oh, that reminds me, I got a killer deal on the 14 terabyte hard drive on Prime Day a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully you guys got that deal too. All right. This is my client folder. This was outdoors, but I was doing, yeah, that doesn't count. My event folder. Oh, these I really butchered. And it was at night. That doesn't count. Um, am I back? I think I'm back. Somebody let me know in the chat. Uh, I'm loading up my my editor again. Somebody let me know in the chat. Everything I'm looking at tells me I'm live, but why is my, let me turn this on. Hold on. I think the audio might be a little off, so hold on. Once I'm gonna fix my audio now. I have to turn the microphones back on. Right now it's using the camera microphone, which probably sounds okay, but not great, right? All right. Uh, now, so audio now? Okay, now there's audio. Let me get the video back. All right, now I should have audio and video. I don't have my loop deck though. Well, that's not coming back. Anyway, I should, yeah, I should have audio and video now. What were we doing? We were gonna look at some flash photography photos, right? All right, so what's this party? That's all indoor. So while I'm looking this up, Marco, if you can be a little more specific about exposing for the background. All right. I'm just gonna use the webcam microphone. Oh, sorry about that. All right, now let me know if I'm back on now. I'm still seeing some problems on my deck here, but like I have no audio other than using the the webcam microphone, which shouldn't be terrible, but it's not great, right? It's not as good as the mic I have attached here. Uh, but yeah, sorry. Let me know if I'm live and if you guys are seeing me. Let me go back to, I'll say. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm gonna have to do everything kind of manually here. I'm going to go in, I'm going to go in here. I'll just use my own photos as an example. And let me find some outdoor flash stuff. All right, so here's an example, right? So I'm using a flash and an ND filter so that I could expose for the background so that you could see it, but at the same time you can see me, right? Because otherwise I would be silhouetted by the very, very bright sun here. Um, Let me see if I can find one with some EXIF data. This is, yeah, this I was using a manual lens, but most likely I was probably like at f8, 1/250th of a second, and using flash with very strong backlighting. And I would have had to use an ND filter on top of this, very likely, with the flash. And the flash I probably had set on manual, probably at full power, because I was shooting through a diffuser, in an octobox outdoors with Godox V1. So that's the basic setup. Godox V1 at full power, going through a 22-inch octobox and with strong backlighting. The lens was probably at f8 based on the depth of field that I'm seeing. And so that's one way to expose for the background using flash, right? So I guess that's why I need a little more detail. Are you trying to blend ambient light with flash together so it's more natural looking, or are you trying to do something more extreme like this, where you have extremely strong backlighting and you want to illuminate the subject? So that would be my question. Uh, when you're asking me about using flash and how do I expose for ambient light. So the process is basically I take a test shot uh, of the ambient light and I get the ambient light to where I want it. And then I turn on the flash and I adjust the flash power until the subject is at the brightness that I want. Um, and this is what you come up with, right? So let me find another example. These are all good examples, right? Again, I have very strong backlighting, so I'm using an ND filter. Uh, I'm at f11, 1/250th, ISO 80, so I was trying to crush the ambient light as much as possible. Actually, with this lens, I didn't have an ND filter. This is the 12 to 32 kit lens at f11, but I definitely would have had to have the Godox V1 at full power to get this shot, because otherwise I would be completely silhouetted. Um, Let me see if I have any other. Here's another example using an art. This is straight out of camera. This one, yeah, no ND filter, f8, 1/250th ISO 200. And again, I would have had the Godox V1 with a going through a softbox at full power to get this shot. Here's another example. This one probably not so much, right? Oh yeah, f16. Again, no ambient light. This no ND filter. This is just the kit lens. But I did have to raise the ISO a bit. Uh, so I probably could have shot this at f8 if I dropped the ISO to 200. But I guarantee I'm at or near full power on the flash for this shot. So let me go back to this and oh, the chat window's not working. Well, okay. Anyway, um, so yeah, basically you take a test shot of the environmental or ambient light and you get it to where you want it, but you got to stay within the sync speed, right? Typically. So generally I set my shutter speed to 1/250th and I adjust the aperture to get the ambient light to where I want it. And I usually try to use base ISO, but use whatever exposure values you need to get the ambient light to where you want it. If you want a shallow depth of field, most likely you're going to have to add an ND filter so you can open up your aperture wide open, keep your ISO down low, uh, and stay within the sync speed. So you need to do all of these things. And then you put the subject in the frame. In this case, it was me, right? Standing there. Uh, and then I take another test shot with the flash, say at half power, and then I see what the light looks like. And if I'm too dark, I'll increase the flash power, or if I'm too bright, I can decrease the flash power. But I try to start somewhere in the middle of range. Outdoors, with the Godox V1, I have a feel for where I need to be at anyway. But generally, you want to set the flash power starting at, say, 1/32 like somewhere halfway in the range, so that you can go up or down a couple of stops, and that gives you wiggle room. It'll give you wiggle room on your camera settings for exposure. And then again, if you want a shallower depth of field, you'll have to use an ND filter if you want to open up that aperture. So it's just kind of a balance. I don't think I have any videos on this subject. Uh, might be a good video to make, right? But that's how you would do it. It's expose for ambient light and then for the subject. And the subject, all you should have to do is adjust the flash power. Your camera settings won't need to change, generally speaking. And like I said, about one stop darker in the background. I don't think I have any exact examples of that. Let me see. Yeah, all of these. Yeah, all of these I exposed for, like I'm looking at this one. So this is with the 25 1.4, but I didn't have an ND filter, so I had to stop down at f8, drop my ISO down to 80, and the sync speed at 1/250th. And then I probably fired the flash again at full power for this shot, but I exposed for the background. So this exposure is for the background, and then you set the flash power for the subject. So it's basically those two steps, right? Expose for the background or the ambient light, and then adjust the flash power for the subject. And that's all there is to it. Oops. Oh, this is so awkward without. I got to figure out what's going on with my setup here. I don't know why, like once or twice, like every other month or something, I get like this total system failure. Okay. Uh,
Where's the other one? Rob, have you used the Zuiko 25 1.8 version 2 lens? I'm thinking of getting it for my M1 Mark II. Yeah, I did have it. It's exactly the same as the Mark I, optically speaking. I couldn't tell any difference. I had it on loan for a couple of months from OM Systems. I didn't make a video on it because it was basically the same lens, but with weather sealing. So the Mark II version basically has weather sealing. The Mark I version does not. So if you don't need the weather sealing, just get the Mark I. It's exactly the same. Yeah, it would definitely make an interesting video. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of videos on it already, but I guess uh, nobody does it like I do, right? I go into all of the fine print. Want to do this, you want to use this, because I'm very gear specific. I'll use my OM system gear or whatever camera, but typically OM system or Olympus. Every setting exactly in the menu, every setting exactly on the trigger, every setting exactly on the flash for these specific things. A lot of the videos that you see on this subject are very generic. The guy will come out and just say, okay, set your aperture to this, your shutter to this. Broadly speaking, the settings aren't that difficult, but a lot of times it makes a big difference when it's on this very specific camera and menu system and gear that you're using. You can see it exactly, right? Like, actually, I need to do a review on this trigger. I'm way late on this. I can't believe people still reach out to me to review their gear because I take forever to get them done. Because they're not paying me. They give me the gear. Okay, that's a perk, but they're not paying me to do these reviews. I'm trying to stay unsponsored. I get a lot of offers for paid things, but I'm trying to stay unsponsored so I can review the gear and I get a little more latitude. They're a little more flexible with me on timing and quality of video. Because, man, like I'm supposed to review this Insta360. Uh, I'm about a week late on this. A lot of creators were getting paid to do this review. They got the gear and they got paid, like $1,000 or more to do the review. But I kind of declined. I said, just send me the camera and I'll do the review because like my friend over there, Emily at Micro Four Nerds. I mean, I don't know what they paid her to do the video, but she does such good work. She earned every penny that they paid her to do that review of this camera. And her video is awesome on this camera. My video is not going to be that good. Not as good as hers. Let me rephrase that. It's not going to be as good as her video review of this camera. It's going to be my kind of take on it as a photography, and I'll kind of get into the fine print and I'll gloss over some of the video. But I don't know why I'm talking about this now. Oh, I was talking about, yeah. So maybe when I do a review on this, I'll do an example of mixing ambient light with flash using this trigger as part of the video. And so if you see a review for this particular trigger, um, I'll try to include a little tutorial about how to mix ambient light with flash. That would be a good segue for this little trigger. This is a cool trigger. This is like their little X3, but it's bigger, right? Bigger screen. Okay. How's the audio? Is the audio okay with just the Insta360 thing? Did my audio come back for the other mic? For some reason, let me check. I have to use I have to use the webcam mic. Audio's okay, right? With the webcam mic. So I don't know why I got all these cables and USB chargers and everything going on just to run a wireless mic. The audio is better though with the wireless mic. But okay, so let's go back to some deals. I think I answered all the questions. Yeah, this is an Insta360 webcam. I love Insta360 products, and that's why I'm happy to review this, right? Because I use a lot of their stuff. I have their older version, the One RS, and I have their 360 cam. I mean, I bought all this stuff, including the webcam, because I just like their products. I think that, they're not the cheapest, right? You pay a little bit more, but I think overall you get a better package overall, with the software they include and the performance of the gear itself, and the amazing customizability and features and options and all of that. It's just amazing. So overall, it's the best of all the competition when it comes to their webcam, their action cameras, their 360 cameras. Uh, that's kind of where their niche, and they're the best at it overall. All right, as a package, they are not the very best in any specific thing, right? Uh, some would argue, like the battery life is not as good as the DJI version of this. DJI is like double the battery life, but this has the better low light capability, better processing, real time HDR. I mean, it has a lot of things that that it's so much better at. Anywho, uh, let's just wrap up some deals here. See if I can get to the screen. All right. My webcam work? Oh, it does. Well, it kind of works. It's a little bit off. All right, so this memory card, let's see if this is still on sale. Yeah, this is a good deal. Uh, it's a standard V30 card. If you're not doing sports action photography, this card will be perfectly fine. Uh, but if you fill up your buffer all the time in your sports action photography, you want to get a V60 card. But if you're not like a sports action, you're more of a street photography, portrait, landscape, there's no need to spend more. And this has a $10 coupon. So you can get this for $23, this memory card, a 256 memory card for $23. And this is a Samsung. It's a really good card. I've bought a couple of these. This has one variation, but I have a few variations of this card. Um, and it's a great card. Okay. There is a new, I found a couple of really cheap bags here, $10 for a little camera bag, you know. This is a little bit on the smaller side, dimensions 5-inch deep, which is good, but it's only 9 inches wide. So it's a little bit on the smaller side. But it's fine if you want to carry, like, you carry your camera around your neck and then you got two or three lenses and a flash in the bag, right? Uh, this is perfect for that. Or if you want to carry your camera in the bag with one lens or one flash, you can do that. So this is a little bit on the smaller size, but sometimes you don't need to bring a bigger bag. You can just bring a small bag, particularly like for street photography. A lot of times you only need one other item, accessory, like some extra batteries, maybe a flash, things like that, right? And then this is a new bag. There's a $4 coupon here, so it's a $24 bag, right? Or 25. And what's interesting about this is a decent sized bag, right? This one is 11 inches wide, almost 12 inches wide, 5 inches, 5 inches deep. So it's a bigger bag. So this is a little bit more useful for carrying your camera and lenses in the bag itself. But it has a hard shell on the front. So, and also the inserts, it has a really good insert into it too. They don't, oh yeah, here are the inserts. So this has this foldable insert, which is fairly rigid. So you have a very rigid insert that's adjustable, and you also have a hard shell on the outside. So this bag is very, very rigid. So it's going to really protect your gear very well. So I think this is a great bag for the money. It's not 50% off. Doesn't need to be. It's only $25 with the coupon. And I think this is a great bag. And then this bag from Bag Smart, it's roughly the same size as the one we just looked at, but this one is on sale for about $16, right? And it's not a hard shell, but it's about the same size, roughly. It's a little bit thinner, but that's not a big deal, and holds a lot of stuff. So if you want to save another $8, $8 or $9 on your bag, this is a great option. And no hard shell. I mean, a hard shell is not necessary, but if you want a hard shell, that $25 bag is good. If you don't care about the hard shell, and you can save $8 or $9 getting this one. And they have various colors here, right? Sort of dark gray, gray, and tan. And then, the backpacks speak for themselves. This is a very popular hard shell bag. This was on sale for about $5 less a week ago. Nobody bought it when I told everybody, but you still have a chance to get one. It's just $5 more now than it was a week ago. This is an excellent bag. It's bigger than the one here, but this is not a hard shell. This is a canvas material. And I like this bag a lot. For $54 or $55, this bag holds so much stuff, 22 liters. It holds so much stuff, and the canvas material is going to last you a while. Uh, so I think it's a very handsome bag. It's durable and an excellent size, a really perfect size. And then this bag here, this is smaller than the one we just looked at, but this is also a nice canvas material, holds plenty of stuff. Not as much as the other bag we looked at, but then look at the price, $33. Come on. And this is also another handsome looking bag. It's got this sort of faded olive green color. Uh, so it's gonna, if you care about matching things, it's very neutral khaki olive green. So it's gonna match everything in terms of aesthetics. And so this is a great bag, very versatile, lots of pockets. And then I found a couple of camera straps, so you can kind of get this dark gray or olive green strap to go with that bag I just showed you, right? For $3. This paracord material, what do they call it? Climbing rope. So it's basically a thick paracord. It's very comfortable and it's lightweight, easy to pack in your bag. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's not adjustable, so it is what it is. But that's the trade-off. It's not adjustable, but the benefits are it's lightweight, it's comfortable, and it folds up into your bag real nice and compact, doesn't take up a lot of room, and it's only $3. you know. So I thought this was a good deal, and they have it in black also here for 50 cents more. And then a few tripods. I've talked about these in the past. These are all great. My favorite of these is really it's this one. It's not very tall, but it's so compact and lightweight. And there's a $15 coupon here. There might even be another 10% off here. This is a little random getting this deal, the extra 10%. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But you're definitely going to get the $15 coupon that they're showing here. 53 inches at max height, but without the center column extended, it's only 38 or 46 inches. So it's just a little under 4 feet. So it's only going to stand up about this high, maybe just at near the bottom of your chest. I'm like 5'8", so it's going to come to about here on me. Uh, but how often are you like shooting at eye level, right? Not very often. Normally you like lower angles, right? When you're shooting images. But if you need a taller tripod, you're going to spend more and it's going to be bigger. But generally speaking, this will probably meet 80% of the needs in a very compact, lightweight, really good load capacity of 17.6 pounds, uh, carbon fiber. I mean, this thing only weighs zero point 0.7 grams, zero point 0.7 kilos. I'm sorry, zero point 0.7 kilos. But if you need more capacity and more height, this is an excellent option from Suray. It's on sale for $200. This is cheaper than a lot of tripods that have similar features at this price point. Most tripods that have these features cost closer to 300. But this has a separate leveling base. It has a fluid head with an Arca Swiss plate. And this is great for doing multi-row panoramas. So if you like doing multi-row panoramas, this is the tripod to get. And then, of course, you can use it as a regular tripod. Uh, the trade-off being it's a little bit bulkier here. You can take the handle off. So it's a little bit bulkier here, but you get the versatility of doing perfect multi-row panos. So I use something similar to this from PhotoPro for my multi-row panos. But Sura is a very good brand. Pretty decent height, 51 inches without the center column, up to 60 inches with the center column. So again, it's a relatively compact tripod, carbon fiber. Do they give the weight here? It weighs 1.43 kilos. Most of that weight is in the head, uh, right up here. That's why this weighs 1.43, but the sticks themselves, the legs, are very, very lightweight. So this tripod is very top heavy because of the head, but the versatility you get with this is unmatched, in my opinion. Of course, and if you do video work, of course, this makes a lot of sense too. But from a photographer's point of view, having the separate leveling base, the fluid head for multi-row panos makes it really a perfect tripod for landscape photographers, in my opinion. And then a few other accessories. We talked about filters, some battery chargers here for various cameras. This is Sony. This one is Canon. This is a Panasonic. Some adapters on sale. The microphone. This this is I bought this a couple of weeks ago. This is a great mic set for $99. It's really amazing. It's not working today, of course. I'm not using it, but um, I bought this set. It's this is amazing deal. $99, and the quality of the sound is amazing too. So if you want a wireless mic set that's high quality, very compact, it has the magnetic thing, so I can put this underneath, without it showing. Comes with a charging case to charge uh, everything at once. I mean, it's a great mic set. Uh, and then some chargers. I talked about these last week. This is awesome. This is an awesome device to have, a USB cable tester. I demonstrated that last week. And then a bunch of other stuff that I recommend on a regular basis. Various lenses, filters. This is the cheapest set of step rings I could find for $15.99. Filter wrenches, filter lens caps. These are not magnetic, I'm sorry, metal lens caps for your filters. So if you don't use, if you want to put lens caps on your filters, this is a great option here. The macro thing, et cetera, et cetera. So again, check out my deals. The only other thing I'm going to add to today's deal are two cameras. The Sony, well, two Sonys. The A7 IV is on sale, super cheap now. You can get it here or at B&H. I have links down below to B&H. But you can get a Sony with the kit lens, the A7 IV, for $21.98. That's the best deal I've ever seen on this camera. And then the Sony A7R5. I have links to B&H, but you can also buy it here on Amazon using my link. I think, yeah. Okay, so yes, the same price on B&H. B&H is offering like a free bag and memory card, I think, if you buy the camera there. So I would use the link I have for B&H for this camera. I make half the money. They don't pay as good commission as Amazon, but it's a better deal for you guys to buy at B&H. 32.98. That's a smoking deal. And then yeah, Marco's already mentioned it, but the Lumix. Lumix S5 II. Amazon has the best deal on this. Not this particular combination, but when you get it with the 50 millimeter, this is $100 less, I think, than B&H. So, or at least $100 less than B&H. I think B&H was 200 more. But anyway, it's cheapest on Amazon. And you get the 20 to 60 kit lens, which I've had before, and the 51.8. These are both stellar lenses. And the S5, I originally had the S5 Mark I. The image quality is stellar with that camera and lens combination. These two lenses with that camera for $2,100. This is hard to beat. I mean, you will not get better image quality from any system, in my opinion, than you will from this particular combination at this price point. I would argue you would have to spend at least $1,000 more to get this kind of quality in a 24 megapixel sensor. Plus, this has the high-res shot mode feature, the in-camera stacking, and a bunch of other stuff. And of course, the video is the best of all the other systems. You know, the only compromise is it's not top tier autofocus, right? It's close. It's good enough, in my opinion. It's not bad by any means. Not like the old contrasted text system that they had, their DFD. And that's one of the main reasons I got rid of it. Was I was having trouble with the autofocus. Uh, but with this system, you're not gonna have any problems like I did, not consistently. And for photography, perfectly fine. This is a killer deal. $700 basically, or $650 off for this combo. Because if you were to buy that lens separately, you can get it separately for about $350, both of these lenses. So it'd be $700 for the pair if you tried to buy them separately. So you're getting the camera for basically $1,400, a full frame 24 megapixel camera with a ton of features and, of course, a ton of video capability. And yes, this is the L mount. And the great Manzini was asking, this is the L mount. All of the L mount glass coming from Sigma and Panasonic is stellar for the price point. I mean, they punch way above their weight. The 50, the 20 to 60, the 85 to 35, every single lens in the L mount punches way above its weight at the price point that you're paying. And I would argue you'd have to spend 4 or 5 times as much money at any focal length to get the kind of to beat the quality that you're getting out of the L mount glass. And that includes the Panasonic and the Sigma lenses. So I'm thinking in comparison to like the Nikon S glass, the Sony G Master glass, you have to spend that kind of money to get better optical quality than you're getting from this. So if you want to get a full frame camera and you're primarily, well, you don't have to be primarily photographer, you can be a hybrid shooter. This is, I really don't know why this doesn't sell like, crazy. This camera should be the number one camera in my opinion, but it doesn't get a lot of love on YouTube and except from people like me, Emily, and a few others that love the Panasonic L mount system. It just does not get and I'm halfway tempted myself to get this. I'm thinking, I really want to get back in the L mount system, but I'm torn between getting an older S1R, the original Mark One, which I can get for about 1,100 bucks, or just biting the bullet and getting this system. So I'll be down to 24 megapixels, but I'm going to gain a huge leap in autofocus performance over the original S1R. And I really don't need 47 megapixels, but I really love the images that I got from my Panasonic S1R. But I also really love the images I got from my S5. And the S5 too is basically the same thing, image quality wise. Okay, so those are the two cameras or three cameras. The S5 2X, if you're more into video, you might want to get the S5 2X. It's $200 more, I think. Uh, but these are the Panasonic L mount is the best camera system out there, in my opinion. Um, it's one of the biggest regrets was me getting out of that system. I forget what I traded for. I traded to buy something else, but it's probably the best full frame system in terms of pure image quality at these price points. You'd have to spend on the glass 4 times as much and on the camera body double, right? Let's say you're getting this camera for equivalent of $1,400. What other camera can you get for $1,400 in full frame with the kind of quality and features that this S5 II has? Can't think of any. The closest thing might be the new Nikon Z5 Mark II, but that's a few $100s more, isn't it? Even on sale, it's like 1,700. It's $300 more. And I would argue it's not any better than this camera. Less so, probably in many ways. But don't quote me on that. I don't have them side by side. Uh, did we lose audio? Right after I mentioned the S1R. Well, anyway, why don't we wrap it up here? Unless there's any other questions, or what was I going to talk about anything? I feel like I was going to talk about something at the end. I can't remember now. I don't remember what it was. Oh, the party. Yeah, that's a boring story. Uh, but this party, I'll tell you, because I can't just leave you like that, right? Say I'm going to tell you the story and then say, oh, no, it's boring, and then not tell you. It is a little bit boring. It was only funny to me, but uh, a couple of weeks ago, my friend called and says, "Hey, do you want to go to a party? Lots of free food." I said, "Yeah, I'll go. Any free food, I'll go, man. I'm always hungry, right?" And so she gave me the address and the date and time, and it was a couple of weeks ago. And I said, "Well, I guess I'll be at the gym," because she told me that she said there's going to be a lot of food and a lot of single women because this party was a women's organization uh, celebrating, it's a woman's like fitness and dance and all kind like it was mostly for women, mostly, it's some organization. I forget what it was. So she told me it's going to be free food and lots of single women, right? I said, well, yeah, I'll go. She gave me the date and time. It's okay. I'll be at the gym until then. And she's like, why? Why do you want to go to the gym? Are you going to drive? You don't want to drive the women crazy, do you? And I said, drive the women crazy. No, you said there's going to be a lot of free food. That's why I need to kind of prep and lose a couple of pounds before I go over and binge on the party food over there. Because you're going to be partying and drinking, and um, so I was thinking purely from the sense of like trying to maintain my weight, not to get in shape for because there's going to be women there. Although that is a perk, right? A bonus, but that was not my intent. And that's the whole story. But I went there and had a great time, met lots of nice people, and it took my Leica Q, uh, not my Leica Q, what the hell? My Leica Deluxe 8. I wish it was a Leica Q, but no, I took my Leica Deluxe 8 and took some pictures there. Because I remember in one of the streams, someone asked me, to take my Leica Q, my Leica Deluxe 8 out so that I can give some better impressions about its performance and the image quality and all of that. So I have been taking it out more lately. Uh, and It does pretty well, but you don't really know a camera until you really start to use it a lot. And I'm starting to get a sense of its strengths and weaknesses a little better. Initially, I'd say it's excellent in good light. I mean, stellar, but that's true of any camera, right? Even my little toy cameras look great in good light. But it's when you kind of get into lower light situations that it does struggle a little bit more with autofocus and image quality. Just an initial impression. I don't want to pass judgment on it yet, but it's definitely better image quality than because I was debating, should I take my OM3 with the 12 to 45 f4, or I can take the Leica Deluxe that has the f1.7. So I opted for the f1.7 because I knew I would be indoors, and I was pretty sure I wasn't going to be able to use flash. So I said I better bring the f1.7 Deluxe 8, and it turned out to be the right choice because I couldn't use flash. So all right, guys, you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll be back on Friday, God willing, to do photo editing, and then Sunday for normal photo chat. I don't think I'm going to be too busy this weekend, but I'll try and make sure to make the Sunday stream. So everyone, go to the gym, eat healthy, exercise. Okay, um, that's the most important thing in life. If is your health, and that's what I wish most for you. And of course, your mental health by taking pictures, shutter therapy, as Robin Wong would say. But thanks so much for joining me today. I really greatly appreciate you being here for, that in itself, being here, support, and also becoming a member, donations, using my affiliate links, all that good stuff is great. So thanks again. You guys have a great week. See you again soon.